can also find in 2 Maccabees chapters 4, 6, and 7. But what we're going to do for time constraint here, we're going to go to 2 Maccabees, the 6th chapter, reading verses 1 through 2.
Don't they still keep Bacchus, Moreh?
Oh, yes.
Like New Orleans?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And you know, once we get our hands on it, we take it to a whole other level.
Yeah.
And this is when we have Freaknik, okay? And so, and I've seen some pictures, and
Can you repeat those scriptures?
Scriptures of interest would be 1 Maccabees chapter 1, chapters 2, 4, 6, and 7. Okay, there is so much history there, Mishpachar. Evils began to be multiplied upon the face of the earth. Nothing in comparison to the Babylonian captivity, the Medo-Persian captivity. Once these Greeks got into office, oh, all hell broke loose. All hell broke loose. So 2 Maccabees, the 6 chapters I came, please, verses 1 through 2.
2 Maccabees 6, verse 1. Not long after this king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of Elohim, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius, and that in Garizim of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwell in the place.
Okay, we talked about the birthday of the moon, which was put together by Antiochus Epiphanes. Let's go to 2 Maccabees. We're going to stay there. Chapter 6, stay there, verse 7.
2 Maccabees 6, verse 7. And in the day of the king's birth, every month, they were brought by bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices. And when the fast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus, carrying ivy.
Right. We're going to, let me read that a little bit. It's a little bit different. One of the monthly birthday celebrations, the king had the Yahudims taken under bitter constraint to partake of the sacrifices, eating swine's flesh and anything that was abominable, anything against Torah, we ate it all. Okay, but this was done under constraint by the king. And when the feast of Dionysus came, we were forced to walk in the precision and honor of Dionysus, wearing wreaths of ivy. You ever see these these old like freaky deaky movies? They would wear the wreaths,
Yes.
and they would be like
Yes.
naked, and they would have all this illicit sex, women with women, men with men, with animals, a whole 9 yards. I have, when Zakar and I, we went to Israel, if anybody wants to see it after class, we went to the museum out there in Israel, and they have on clay tablets and on their pottery all type of grotesque things that the Greeks were into. They are the lowest and the scums of the earth, the nastiest people on the planet Earth. Job talked about that. Listen, I would not have even let my dogs sit amongst these people. Next week, what I would do, I even have pictures of Ronald Reagan's daughter laying in bed with the dog. There was no intercourse or anything like that, but she's naked in the bed with the dog. This is what they're into, and they introduced that type of behavior into the nation of Yashra'al, and just trying to make sure that everybody identifies who these people are. This is all documented in our history. So I came, 1 Maccabees, the 1st chapter, verses 41 to 51. First Maccabees, the 1st chapter, verses 41 to 51.
First Maccabees 1, verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his region and his religion, and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Shabbat. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary, and set apart people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanliness and profanation, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. And the selfsame manner wrote he to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanded the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city.
So Israel is under siege. All right? These Greeks came into power and they changed everything. All of our laws, statutes, commandments, they changed all of that. And if we didn't do these things now, that we were condemned to death. Condemned to death now. Now, Dionysus, the Bacchus festival, is still celebrated to this day, and it is also called Mardi Gras. All right? It is also called Mardi Gras. A lot of our people in the islands like to do that whole thing with the Mardi Gras and dress half naked and dance and parade up and down the streets. But again, when we begin to understand history, everything that we do is surrounded around a history. So let's just make sure that we stay away from these pagan festivals, because it has nothing to do with Torah, and that it was at one point we agreed to do these things, but all of this now is coming from Antiochus Epiphanes. So again, Dionysus, or the Feast of Bacchus, is still celebrated to this day. It is called Mardi Gras, and it includes the Bacchus parade. The date of this celebration was later changed to be on the day before Ash Wednesday, and the name New Day, March the 17th, was later changed to be called St. Patrick's Day. There are Israelites who even get themselves involved with St. Patrick's Day. I don't know what the heck we are doing. I don't see how we connect with that. It is the welcoming sign of the first day of spring, with its festivals of green clothes, green hats, green food, green drinks, and etc. I don't know what to say about it. I really don't. King Antiochus took away the freedom of the Hebrew people to worship Yahuwah, and first forced them to honor the god Zeus and his son Bacchus. This happened in exactly 350 years, as the book of Daniel stated. From the time King Darius began his reign in 521 BCE to the time King Antiochus forced his Hellenization policies on the people in 171 BCE. So when you subtract this now, you will actually get now the 50 years, or I'll do it this way. The Jubilee timing cycle of 350 years will be at times, which is times 2, and then a half of times, or 7 Jubilees. King Antiochus died, and died 1,335 days after he dedicated the temple to Zeus, and 1,290 days after he sacrificed swine on the father's altar. Now, to prove this, we go to the book of Daniel, please, 7:25. Everything that we're saying here today, I just want to make sure that we have the history and we have the scriptures to actually break it down. Because what the adversary is doing, he wants to remove the ancient landmarks. And you are the landmarks. So when the Father makes a covenant with the nation of Yashra'al, it can't be broken. The covenant that the Father made with Adam can't be broken. The covenant that the Father made with Noah can't be broken. The covenant that the Father made with Abraham can't be broken. The covenant that he made with Moses can't be broken. But just like Moreh has shared with us now, there was something that was in place because Israel broke the Abrahamic covenant. And so we see now we have the Levitical laws being put into place. But there was also now the Melchizedek or the Netzer or the Zadokite priest line running side by side with that. And the way that we know that this Melchizedek or the Melchizedek priest line existed from the very beginning, only thing that you would have to do, we're not going to do it today though, is read the first book of Maccabees, and it gives the genealogy of Yashra'al Mashiach, and it starts from the Mashiach going backwards all the way to Adam. This is something that we really, really need to pay very close attention to, because again, the covenant that he made with Adam, okay, which is where we see now forgiveness being implemented because Adam was supposed to have died. That's the penalty for breaking the covenant, is death. But we see the Father's favor coming into the book of Genesis, the first chapter, verse 14 and 15, where the Moedims was set up from the very beginning. If it were not for the Moedims, Adam would have died. Then we see the Father making a covenant with Noah, which was the rainbow. And then we see the Father now talking about another covenant that he made with Abraham. So again, these covenants are extremely, extremely important. For example, signs, tokens, and covenants are so important. Now again, just like we have talked about so many times before, I'm not saying that if a man is not circumcised, he's going to die and rot in hell for the rest of his life. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying now is that the Father gave signs and tokens that can't be done away with. Just can't. Meaning now is that if I wanted to give you directions to get to my house, if I remove all of the landmarks, all of the signs, how can I give you instructions to get to my house? Is it possible? So there's a physical identity of the nation of Yashra'al, and there's a spiritual identity of the nation of Yashra'al. What the enemy is trying to do is to take from our remembrance every single covenant that he has made with us. And if he can do that, later on down the line, it'll get to the point now where you won't even know who you are.
That's exactly what Psalms 83 was talking about.
Exactly. This is what the whole thing is about. I must have you forget who you are. That's the whole thing about it. And so notice now, when Antiochus came into office, the first thing that he wanted to do now was to change the Shabbats. No more circumcision. Because this is how slavery worked. You and your Isha will have a child. If the baby stays with you, you will be able to now teach the baby the laws, statutes, and commandments. But if I take the baby away from you when the baby is young, and takes them all the way across the sea somewhere else, that baby would never have a history of knowing who he or she is. And this is where we're at today, where we don't know who we are. And all of this started now, as we read it here in history, with Antiochus Epiphanes, and I'll say it, so-called white people. All right? It is what it is. It's not a personal attack, but these people are the scum of the planet Earth. When these people are put under subjection, let them not rise again. Let them not build cities. That's what we have in Scripture. Not what I said, this is what we have in Scripture. We must identify who the enemy is. Where were we?
We're going to do Daniel 7 and 25.
Okay, Daniel 7:25. Let's see what the prophecy says.
Daniel 7 verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
And who are the saints of the Most High? Anybody know who this is? Okay, hallelujah.
and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time.
Verse 12 and 7. Could be talking about this times and the dividing of times. A man is going to come into office, and he's going to change the times. He's going to change the laws. Daylight savings time, all right? We have Easter. We don't know when the new year began. There was a time when we believed that the new year began in January. So all of this confusion that's going on today, and all of this happened now because of when the enemy came into play, which is Antiochus Epiphanes. And again, it is very important that we identify who the enemy is. The book of Daniel 12 and 7.
Okay, chapter 12, verse 7.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel 12, verse 7. And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto Shamaim, all heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever.
Okay, watch this. Look how concrete this prophecy is. And when this messenger held up his right hand and his left hand unto Shamaim, and he swore by him that lives forever. Read on.
That it shall be for a time, times, and a half, and when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the set apart people, all these things shall be finished.
Verses 11 to 13. 12, 11 to 13.
Daniel 12, verse 11. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he that waiteth, and cometh to the 1,305 and 30 days.
Okay. Verse 13.
Verse 13. But go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of the days.
Okay, there's a lot going on there. I don't want to get into it too tough, but let me just read on, all right? The book of Jubilees was written during this time. It is preserved by the Enoch calendar. It warned the Hellenistic Jews to guard themselves against keeping the Greek calendar that begins the year on the first new moon after the summer solstice. We talked about that last week. Let's see that earliest last Thursday. The writers of the book of Jubilees feared that if the Hebrew people observed the Greek calendar and King Antiochus' monthly new moon birthday festival that begins the Greek months, that they will forget the solar calendar that Yahuwah of the Father made at the end of the year on the spring equinox, that is, they have on a Shabbat day. And it sets the 7th-day Shabbats. They will lose track of the Shabbat day and forget our monthly festivals of the first day of each solar month and forget the annual feasts, as they are all fixed days every year based on the spring equinox that ends the year. Now, the book of Jubilees, if we can get Moreh, our executive Moreh Eliyahu, if you can read the book of Jubilees, the 6th chapter, verses 34 to 38.
Book of Jubilees, first chapter, verse 34.
6th chapter.
Sixth chapter,
Yes, sir.
verse 34. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein.
U.S. Jubilees 6:34.
Oh, hold on. My bad.
I'm just trying to share with everybody how deep the rabbit hole really goes, and we really need to pay a lot more closer attention to our surroundings. This is not a hate class. I'm just bringing out mere facts that's in history and also in scripture. It is, the shepherds have fallen asleep, okay, and tares are now sown amongst the wheat. So the book of Jubilees, the 6th chapter, verses 34-38.
And all the children of Yashra'al will forget and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the new moons, and seasons, and Sabbaths, a Sabbator. And they will go wrong as to all the order of the years. For I know, and from henceforth will I declare it unto you, and it is not of mine own devising, for the secret lies written before me, and on the heavenly tablets the division of days is ordained, lest they forget the feast of the covenant, and walking according to the feast of the other nations, after their error and after their ignorance. For there will be those who will assuredly make observation of the moons, how it disturbs the seasons, and comes in from year to year, 10 days too soon.
Hallelujah. Lest they forget the festivals of the Moedim, the set-apart appointments of the Father, and walk accordingly to the feast of the Gentiles after their error and after their ignorance. So what I'm hearing now is, baby, listen. That's your little granddaughter. That's your little grandson. You know, let them have their fun. Okay, there's nothing wrong with coloring the Easter eggs. Easter egg hunting. I mean, let them have their fun, because what's going to happen now is that if I take her from the, they don't have to go to school that day. This is going to deprive them of having fun. And why can't they participate in Halloween and changing, candies and things of that sort? But Mr. Picard, when we begin to look at the history behind it, there's a book called The Two Babylons. It breaks down all of that crap. Okay, Valentine's Day. The history behind Easter. All of these pagan holidays, they are all demonic, and what you're actually doing now is that you're charming up demonic spirits to come up, is what you're doing. You're opening up portals, is what you're doing. So it is very important that we make sure that we stay very tight-knit with the instructions that the Father gave us from the very beginning. Well, baby, listen, you know what? Jesus loves me anyway. I can participate and do those things because Jesus is going to judge my heart. And everything is okay. Jesus is not going to ask me on the day of reckoning what was my diet. He's not going to ask me that, because Jesus knows my heart. Because Scripture tells us it's not what goes inside of a man that defiles him, because it comes right out of the drum. So I can eat whatever it is that I want to eat. Too many times, because of this whole Christian theology, I'm just about sick of people saying that, you know what, listen, I don't have to do X, Y, and Z because it's in my heart. It's in my heart. I don't really have to do those things anymore. It's in my heart. I don't have to observe the Shabbat anymore. It's in my heart. Jesus knows my heart. But, Mr. Carr, the Scripture tells us in the book of Zephaniah, I think it's 1:8, it talks about even strange apparel. Okay? It got to a point when Israel came out of the Babylonian captivity, we started to pick up so many customs that were around us, we even stopped wearing our ancient clothing. Strange apparel. And the Father said, I would deal with the king and the princes and their sons because they have not taken on the ways of the heathens. What about your culture? When I go to work, you know what? I have to wear my uniform to represent my company. When I was younger, working at Burger King and McDonald's and places like that, I couldn't go to work working for McDonald's with a White Castle uniform on. But when you talk to Israel about their custom, listen, you know what? Well, it doesn't matter. Everything gets relaxed once you now begin to follow Torah. But when you go to work and work for a master, you have no problem. You have your big name tag on and the whole shebang. But I know David Chappelle, he did a funny skit before where, you remember the one about...
when he was the, what you talking about, the one with the clan? No?
Nah, when there was a woman that was in distress and David Chappelle was dressed as a police officer. And the
Right,
woman,
right.
the woman runs to David Chappelle because she just got robbed, or whatever the case like that might have been. And he had on a policeman's uniform. And he's like, well, what makes you think that I'm a police officer?
Right.
Well, it's because you have on a police officer's uniform. And so, but the woman was dressed like a prostitute. So if you judge a person, because a person says, listen, you can't judge me. But clothing makes a big deal. So if you're wearing lewd clothing, why is it hard for us to say, listen, you're dressed like a whore? So everything means something. Everything. Zacchaeus shared with me a couple of weeks ago that he went out to a restaurant and they were able to identify Zacchaeus' family as being set apart based upon the way they were dressed.
Yes, of course.
Yep.
So there was also a dress code for the nation of Yashra'al. We have our own customs. Back in the day, I don't agree with it now, but you were able to identify going down 125th Street from anyway, from where we was teaching at, from the corner, all the way down there like to the Apollo Theater. The Africans were down there and they sold all African apparel. So you knew an African because of the way that they were dressed. They had their own style and fashion.
Right.
Indians, they have their own style and fashion. Muslims, they have their own style and fashion of clothing. But Israel, listen, you know what? Jesus loves me, the Father loves me. What the hell? I can do whatever it is that I want to do. But this mindset came from the Greeks, all right? But again,
Even in the Maccabees, it tells you that this stuff that we wear, what they call it, Greek fashion.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Greek fashion.
Absolutely. So let me speed it up here a little bit, Bishop McCall, because the history is very important. For this reason, the year will come upon them when they would disturb the order and make it an abominable day, the day of testimony, and an unclean day, a feast day. And they will confound all the days, the set apart with the unclean, and the clean day with the set apart day. For they will go wrong as to the months and Shabbats and the feasts and the jubilees. And for this reason I command and testify to you that you may testify to them, for after your death the children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only. And for this reason they will go wrong as to the months and the seasons, the Shabbats, the festivals, and they will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh. Like this thing, what do you call it, a gumbo. Right? I mean, you can throw some everything in it. I mean, some shrimp, lobster, pork, I mean, they're all kind of crap in that. And you know what? Jesus loves me. It's not about my diet. The Father's judging my heart. This is what they teach up in the churches, and you can't make headway with a lot of Israelites because of this Jesus loves me no matter what policy. The birthday of the month festival was observed by most of the Hebrew people because they feared King Antiochus. After the death of King Antiochus in 164 BC, some of the Hebrew priests tried to restore the solar calendar, but the Greek new moon influence was all around them. Now, this guy is very important. I even taught this guy's calendar back in the day. This is what happened, and it happened to me. I have to testify, it happened to me. I was never part of a church, but when I left the whole One West Basel zone there, and I started to do my own private research and everything like that, I jumped from that to Jewish traditions. Because I said to myself at that time, where they're the Jews, Jewish people. They're over there in the land, they have all the records, so what they're doing must be correct. So I followed this guy called Hillel, the Hillel calendar with the 13th month and everything like that. So a lot of the route that I was taking was based upon Jewish tradition. Okay, with the Masoretic text and the whole nine there. And so I began to now study the language a little bit more, study other lexicons and things of that sort, and I said, listen, you know what? They're even the worst. They're even devils. And we're going to show some records, proof that I come up with, and let's share some of this here. In 359 CE, during the Christian era, Hillel II introduced what they call a fixed, calculated new moon calendar that is based on the conjunction of the earth, the moon, and the sun. And this lunar calendar has been by Jews and others to this day to determine the first day of the month and the annual feast. Now watch this, Mr. Picard. This is very important. The term new moon, okay, Yarek Kadash, is not written anywhere in the Hebrew scriptures. Not there. Okay. The scripture only uses the word month, okay, Kodesh, and it pertains to a solar month. So when you look up the word new moon, I think it's in Psalms, the 91st chapter, is in a strong concordance going to give you new month and new moon. But originally the word moon wasn't there. It just said new month. The word Yarak means moon. The word Kodesh means month. We'll talk about that as we go on. The translators now fixed up a few of the Hebrew words due to vowel pointing errors, like Kodesh spelled Chodesh, which means either months or new month, and the word Kadash, Chadash, which means new. They only confuse the word Yerek, spelled Yerach, which means month, as in a complete month, with the word Yerek, which means moon. And this is where the translation error of new moon came into various books and Bibles, and it's commonly known that the Hebrew people observed the new moon and kept a new moon festival every month. However, observing the new moon is not commanded in Torah, nor is the term new moon ever mentioned in the whole Tanakh when you look at the original Hebrew text. And the word moon, Yarak, now, which is the moon, is only mentioned 3 times in the Torah. It is mentioned, and I'm going to speed up here a little bit, in Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, verses 15 to 19. Again, Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, verses 15 to 19. Deuteronomy, the 17th chapter, verses 2 through 5. And the other one is in Genesis, the book of Bereshit, 37 and 9. Let me see here. 13 and we have Deuteronomy 4, 15 to 19, Deuteronomy 17, 2 and 5, and Genesis 37 and 9. Okay, we're just about done.
And these scriptures talk about.
This talks about, okay, I have it here. Deuteronomy 4, 15 and 9 says, we have 4, 15 and 19, Deuteronomy. Take therefore good heed to yourself, for you saw no manner of form on the day that the Father spoke to us in Horeb out of the midst of the fire. Lest you corrupt yourselves and make yourself an engraved image in the form of any figure, like the likeness of a male or female, the likeness of an animal that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged bird that flies in the sky, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the water under the earth, and lest you lift up your eyes into the sky, and when you see the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the hosts of the sky, and be drawn away to worship and serve them, which Yahuwah your Elohim has allotted to all the people under the whole sky. And this one we talked about the constellations and how this is a form of communication for everybody that's on the planet Earth. And Deuteronomy 17, 2 and 5, it just expounds upon that a little bit more. And Genesis 37 and 9 talks about it a little bit more. Okay, we're going to almost shut it down, all right? Because I want to explain to what's going on here on the board. Later, when the Hebrew people adopted now the Julian calendar, because prior to a Gregorian calendar, there was a Julian calendar. The Julian calendar came about in 45 BCE, which is before the Christian era. The seventh-day week continued as usual, on the names of the days of the week remained the same. So the Hebrew people felt that the Hebrew calendar change would not affect them. However, the extra day that was added for a 365-day year totally disrupted the weekly Shabbat cycle. Like, for example, anybody had a birthday recently? Anybody here? Zabu. Your birthday fell on what day of the week? Monday. Last year, your birthday didn't fall on a Monday.
Sunday,
And the year before that, it didn't fall on a Sunday.
Saturday.
The number of days stays the same, okay? But what's happening now is that the name of the day is changing. And the reason why that's changing is because we're not operating under a 364-day calendar. We're operating under a 365-day calendar, this extra day that was added. All right, because this is going to help explain what's going on here. Now, the Enoch calendar, the solar calendar, is determined by the sun and the stars, giving us exactly 364 days. We have in, let's see, we're going to speed this up here a little bit. Let's get to it here. All right, let's explain this here. Step on this side here. The 364 days, Mr. McCobb, is very important. In Scripture, I'm going to write in between here. We have talked about so many times where we talked about a time, times, plural, and dividing of times, or half the times, which would have given us 1,260 days. 1,000. Yeah, it's kind of right in the light here. 1,260 days. This is based upon 30-day cycles here. And then we have a 360-day cycle, and we have a 364-day cycle. The 4 days are the 4 festivals, or the 4 pivotal points of the sun, where we have the vernal equinox, we have the summer solstice, we have the fall equinox, and the winter solstice. And like I talked about on Thursday, this would be your barley harvest, this is your wheat harvest, this is your ingathering, and this is the wine, olive, and the wood. All right, so I just wanted to share that. Now, in 364 days, that gives us 1,440 minutes per day. All right, 364 days in a year, 1,440 minutes per day. That gives us 524,160 minutes per 364-day year. This is perfect year. The way that I came up with the 1,440 minutes, you can just Google. How many minutes are in 364 days in one day? How many minutes there are? And it tells you it's 1,440. You just simply do your multiplication, and it gives you 524,160 minutes per 364 days in a year. Now, 365 days were added. An extra day was added. So you would take now the 524,160 minutes, divide that by 365, and you now get 143.05479 minutes per day in a 365-day year. I'm going to stop right there. Do anybody see a problem? Or is everything still copacetic?
It's less
Right.
time, less.
You have a point.
Right, exactly. Because see now, with 364 days, we have 524,160 minutes per 364 days. And we have 1,440 minutes in a day. We now have 143.05479 minutes per day in 365 days in a year. So what you do now is that you take this here, minutes in a day, and you subtract this now from this equation. This equation is representing 364 days in a year. When you subtract 1,440 minutes in a day, this is 364 days in a year. This is 365 days in a year. You talk about minutes here. When you subtract this from this, you get 3.9452 minutes in 365 days in a year. So within 364 days, they've taken out 3.9452 minutes in a day. And so we might say to ourselves, well, that's little to nothing. We can't miss that. But it's slowly taking away from the Father's festivals, because watch what happens now. We now take the 1436.05479, which is here, minutes per day, and 60 minutes in a day is what we have right here. This now gives us not 24 hours, but it gives us now 23 hours, 0.934246575 hours in a day. It tells us that it's 24 hours in a day, but when you're taking away almost four minutes, you're actually taking away from the 24-hour clock, and it's causing a problem. So now we have in 365 days, because this right here is going to represent your hours. This right here are your these are going to be your minutes here.
Stop right there.
Yeah. Oh, your seconds here. These are your seconds. Because seconds turn into minutes. And so now these are your seconds. 934246575 seconds times 60 minutes is now giving us 60 minutes. Instead of 60 minutes, is now reduced to 56 minutes, 0.054794520 minutes. So this is your minutes, and these are the seconds. So in 365 days, there are 365 days, there are 23 hours, 56 minutes, 0.5 seconds. So this is actually, no, in a day.
Yeah.
This is in a day. Not 360. So in a day, there are 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 5 seconds versus this perfect number here of 364 days, which is 1,440 minutes, 524, 160 minutes per 364 days in a year. This was the calendar that our ancient forefathers used right here. This is what's causing the disturbance. So when we go to the book of Daniel, it's think to change times and seasons. This is what they're actually doing. If I could remove the landmarks, get you off the festivals of Yahuwah, how will you now be able to tell when the festivals are?
Right.
It begins to trickle down from this year, next year. It begins to it gets worse to the point where we forget the ancient paths. So, Mishpachah, that is today's lesson. I just wanted to go over some history and share with us some of the things that I've come across. We went over this actually around the second or third month that I came down here.
Right.
And so I just wanted to bring that back into everybody's attention and just to realize that we're living in some real serious times here. When we begin to look at the solar count being the bridegroom coming out of her chamber, and why is it that people will rather use the lunar cycle is beyond me. We talked about the deacons, we talked about the Zodiac, the 12 constellations. All of this, again, is extremely, extremely important. Anybody have any questions with anything? I might have missed anything. Everybody sold?
The four marks that you talk about, are those also known as Tekufas? The Hebrew word Tekufa?
Right. Absolutely. Where you have the talk about the circuit of the sun. I think the word they use it for circuit is word Tekufa. So it's talking about the what we know. We talked about the ecliptic, which is the pathway or the route that the sun takes. Yep. up. And then you have your 4 pivotal points. Like I said, you have the vernal equinox, the summer solstice, you have the fall equinox, and you have the winter solstice. And what's interesting about all of this too is that the ones that were keeping a real good eye on this were a group of people called the Netzers. They were also known as those of the way. And this calendar that we're talking about today, when we go to the book of the Maccabees, you start to read the some of the temple scrolls, it makes mention that there was a change in the calendar, and those of the Qumran community will call the children of light versus the children of darkness, where those Pharisees who were actually not following this calendar here, but they was actually following the lunar calendar. So these calendars are very, very, very important. And on Wednesday, we'll talk about the Zodiac priest line, and we'll continue on with this, because there's a whole lot of information with this, but there's a lot of reading. Anything else? Okay.
I came in kind of late, so I can't really tell you all that was wrong.
No problem. Yeah, that's the reason why we have our scholars here. I mean, we have our young people here. They just got out of school, so their minds are still fresh. So they should have been able to do the division. Yeah, so they should have been able to see through all of this here. But that's about it, Mr. McCall, for today's lesson. I just wanted to make sure again we understand this calendar here a little bit better. Okay, that's it. We will end today's class. Moreh, is there anything that you wanted to? Okay, Zaken, you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay, hallelujah. So
Hallelujah.
that's today's class, Mr. McCall.
Let's give him a right hand.
Nah, I mean, it has really been a tough journey. I mean, a tough journey. And again, I just found it so interesting, like Moreh and I was talking some time ago, is that when these Greeks came into play, the whole Seleucus dynasty, and these people, wow, man.
That's a wickedness,
Bro, I mean, we have never recovered. I mean, at least under the Babylonian captivity, we knew who we were. Under the Medo-Persian Empire, we knew who we were. But when the Greeks came into play, listen, anything that is resembling, anything that's going to remind you of your customs, we're going to take it away from you.
You know, one of the things that's interesting that you said, one of the things that I've always thought about is, had we stuck to our diet, how much healthier we would be. And, you know, the first thing people said was, you know, because of slavery, we got those left off the scraps or whatever, so that's what ended up making us get off that diet. But when you really think about it, they got us off that diet on purpose, because they knew that we would be defiling ourselves. They knew who they brought over here. And when you put that in the context, you see why they had us eating the way we were eating and all this stuff. We ended up eating, and what became our main diet was the very thing that Yahuwah said we couldn't do.
Right.
I believe that was planned. I don't think that was just by habit. Okay, we got some pork, let's go eat the pig. You know, I honestly believe that was. I mean, what were we talking about fish the other day? What is the biggest thing black folk love more than anything? Gumbo. Yeah. What's in that gumbo pot? Everything that can defile you, you know, just. I mean, it's frustrating when you sit back and you think about it.
Yeah, you do. It's just the history, man. I just, when my grandmother was still around, just hearing her tell the stories and what she had to go through, I mean, it just fascinated me. I mean, things like that, I like to hear what happened before we got here. Because society teaches us today that we should forget. Slavery is gone, don't forget about it. But you have Jewish people, they remind their people all the time,
every day,
all the time, that we were victims of this Holocaust. Okay, but listen, man.
You know the thing about that is that when you start really studying the Holocaust, you realize at best, maybe there was a few people that somebody didn't like and killed them. But for the most part, that thing is the big lie. And if you ever watch these people well, you know, they're out doing the street witnessing and all of this stuff, man, them Jewish folk will go nuts over that thing. They start bawling.
Oh, yeah.
Crying. How dare for this lie that's being told? They are literally losing their mind. They're taught that this was the biggest event in their history. And they just cry and go to boo-booing about, how dare you talk about that? How dare you say, I mean, just for that lie. And we won't even know the word really for the
That's right, exactly. And we'll talk about that whole thing with the Bedford Declaration, and we'll talk about how, about Herod and with Miriam, and how these alliances that were made with the Greeks, and it just became so corrupt. I mean, history, again, was one of my favorite subjects in school, and just we've gone through a whole lot. A whole lot, and a lot of this, I mean, it's real sad. It is very, very sad, especially with the Psalms on 83, which said, let us cut them off for being the people that the name of Yashra'al will no longer be in their remembrance. We went from calling the blacks to African Americans to Negroes to colored. I mean, it just went on and on. I mean, all this time we're trying to find our true identity. And you even have folks like you and I who said, listen, you know what, it doesn't even matter.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't matter now. We should all get along, let bygones be bygones, and let's move forward. But yeah, it's not like that.
But it's like you said, the only thing that doesn't matter is our history. Everybody else's history matters 100%. American history, Jewish history, Asian history, Spanish history, everybody else's history matters, but not ours. You see, that's the only one they're telling you, forget about it. That should let you know right there that there is something that is so significant about our history that we need to really pay a close attention to. You know, I mean, like I said, I was telling him on the way over here, if they say something, I don't believe nothing they say anymore. I mean, it's just to the point where I just don't believe them. I have them around me. Sometimes I have to. You need that alliance sometimes. But for the most part, you bet, boy, turn your back and you want to. Turn your back and you want to.
But you know what? A lot of our people, though, they're the worst. Yeah. They're the worst. And so, again, like we have talked about so many times before, not everybody wants to be unplugged. But Mr. In ending, again, whenever you get the time, just look over the calendar. Look at these days and these dates. This thing goes so far back. Just ask yourself some real simple questions. For example, why is the Sphinx still there on the Giza Plateau? Look at those 4 pyramids that are there. They are perfectly aligned with the Orion and certain constellations in Shamayim. And understanding now, there's history now, and they say it's debatable, but it was the children of Seth that actually now got together and did this, that built these pyramids. It's debatable, but I'm not getting to all of that. But what I do know for a fact now is that when you look at the constellations, and I found it very interesting, is that when you look at Betula, the Virgin, and you go to Revelation, the 12th chapter, and you see this woman, as this moon is moving, right above this woman is the astrological sign of Leo in a crouching position, watching and protecting this woman, as it tells us in the book of Revelation, the 12th chapter. You can't make this stuff up. It's all there. The woman representing Israel with a crown of stars, 12 stars upon her head, and you look right above that constellation is the constellation Leo.
mind reading 1 Chronicles 12 and verse 32?
1 Chronicles 12:32. Yeah, when the questions are asked, that's when I could like bring out more of the information. But again, Mitch McCall, 1 Chronicles 12:32.
Yeah.
Right, and the children of Issachar were men that had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do when the heads of them were 200 and all of the brethren were at their commandment. And the word times is talking about actually the constellations. So they were able to understand, again, the constellations. So this wasn't something that was not familiar with the nation of Yashra'al. Anything else? We good? All right, so we'll stand up, face the east, and that'll be it. We have our chiefs. I came to blow the shofar 7 times, and we'll have our executive Moreh,
Hallelujah.
Moreh Eliyahu, to end us with prayer.
Shabbat. We thank you for the teaching done by Senior Moreh Kasadahba. We thank you for the knowledge that he has brought out today. We just ask that you let us to grasp it and hold on to it and obtain it, and not only just hear, but go home and just begin to study it so we can get it down pat. We thank you for a wonderful reading done by Zodiac and Yahu. We just thank you for each and every last one of us here. We thank you for your set apart Moedim that you allowed us to start and begin to commemorate and celebrate. We thank you for Pesach on the other night. We just thank you for allowing us to come together safely and have a wonderful time and break bread together and just enjoy in the precious name of your son, Hamashiach Yahushua. We just thank you for all that has been said and done. We just ask you to touch us and just overshadow us and let your guardian Malachim encamp around us, protect us from all hurt, harm, and danger as we get ready to go through another week until next Shabbat. We just ask that you cover us and keep us. We just ask that you just continue to protect us on the dangerous highways as we go to work, as some of us go to school, just going to and fro. We just thank you. We just want to give thanks for how you provide and you continue to supply us with our daily needs and with our daily bread. We thank you for everything. We thank you for our life. We thank you for our health. We thank you for our strength. And we appreciate it and we don't take it for granted. We thank you for everything. Hallelujah.
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 Right.